because it feels like we've been kind of screwed for 2 sets now. I mean, Frightfur Patchwork should have came out in Fusion Enforcers. We'll just say that. It should have been in there. There's no reason. I mean, it would have made such a huge difference. It would have been the perfect set for it. And then, well, it's not in Fusion Enforcers. Like, naturally, it has to be in the Dimension pack. It has to be. It just made perfect sense. And I really do think Frightfur Patchwork is good enough to get Fluffles off the ground. They can only keep us going for so long, because it's going to get to a point when Fluffles are going to be so far behind that they're just going to be unplayable even if they get Patchwork, and I don't want that to happen. What I really don't want to see happen is us get Patchwork by the time that Fluffles with Patchwork are completely power crept. I want Frightfur Patchwork. Konami, please give me Frightfur Patchwork. What does a guy got to do to get a card that searches an edge imp and a polymerization, you know? I don't want to be sitting around, waiting around for Frightfur Patchwork all the way through 2020. Like, they have to give us this card eventually. And, you know, when I used to make Frightfur Patchwork videos, people would comment and say, well, Doug, you're forgetting about the Lunalight players. They don't have Lunalight Chick. Guess what? The Lunalight players have that card now, and we don't have Frightfur Patchwork. It's like, oh my gosh. I feel like Fluffles had an opportunity to be good before Link Summoning came out if they got Frightfur Patchwork, and that time's gone, and I get that. I'll never get that moment before Link Summoning, but with Frightfur Patchwork. But come on, Konami, you've imported like 90% of the Dimension box into the TCG. Please just give us Frightfur Patchwork. That's all I want. It's not that hard. There's 10 import spots in every single set. Just put Frightfur Patchwork as one of them. Please make me happy. It's just ridiculous. That is like the #1 thing. And you know, I'm gonna come back to this video like in 2018 on December 31st and be like, okay, were my predictions correct? Did they give me these wish list items? And I swear to God, if Frightfur Patchwork isn't on this list, I'm going to be so mad. 3 copies of Edgem Chain, which is obviously like the best card in the deck. It's the reason that Frightfur Patchwork is so good, is that it searches this card. Obviously, we don't have Patchwork yet. Wink, wink, hint, hint. Maybe Konami will eventually give it to us. But at the moment, we do not have it, but you need to play 3 of this card. Last week at the New York Comic-Con, there was something very exciting, and that was the Konami booth, the Yu-Gi-Oh cards that they were showing off. They showed the entire set of the TCG release of Soul Fusion, which comes out in a couple weeks here. The sneak peek is actually this coming weekend, but this was extremely exciting for me personally because of the new Danger cards, which we've already talked about, but more importantly, the card that I've literally been begging for 2 years is finally released, and that is Frightfur Patchwork. Yes, that's true. This card came out in November of 2016 in Japan, and we are only now finally getting it 2 years later, and I couldn't be more happy. Yes, I wish that we would have had this card sooner. I kind of talked about that in the beginning of this video, where we went through some of the things that I said and some of my fears about this card, and while it is true that this card is not as powerful as it would have been if it was released before Link Summoning, I still think it's a very powerful card in a Fluffle deck, and I'm hoping that Fluffles can maybe top a couple regionals with this card, although that's still a little undecided. But in today's video, I want to talk about why this card means so much to so many people and why it really does make Fluffles a much stronger strategy. Yes, they're probably not going to be a top tier contender, but keep in mind, in the OCG when this card was released and for years, this card actually was topping tournaments even in Zoo format, because Fluffles with this card and the added consistency from it actually had a fairly decent Zodiac matchup. Frightfur Sheep is an extremely good card, and this card could kind of tutor that immediately. Anyway, let's jump right in. What's important to note about Frightfur Patchwork in particular is that this card is a starter card and an extender card. If this is the first card you activate, it's really good. If it's the 5th or 6th card you activate, it's also really good, and there aren't really a lot of cards like that, especially for strategies like Fluffles, so I want to talk about what this card does before we talk about the combos that it accomplishes. So it has a deceptively simple effect. All it does is add 1 polymerization and 1 Edgent monster from your deck to your hand, and then it has that hard once per turn clause that we've all come to know and love, and sort of is put on cards to prevent them from being broken, honestly. So what this card searches, though, is where it gets really good. Obviously, polymerization is super useful for a fusion summoning deck, but searching an Edgent monster is so important, not only because it's just good to have more search cards in your deck, but also because searching Edgent monsters previously was extremely difficult unless you were searching the
the not so powerful Edge Imp Sabers, which you could grab with a couple of the original Fluffle cards. But the more important Edge Imp monster, and the card that you now can play effectively 6 copies of by including 3 copies of Patchwork in your deck, is Edge Imp Chain. And yes, this was sort of a staple 3 of in every single Fluffle strategy. If you opened that card, I don't know the exact stats, but I would imagine the win percentage of your deck would go up so much higher. As someone that's played Fluffles time and time again for years now, I can say with the utmost certainty that Edge Imp Chain is one of the best cards in a Fluffle deck, even though it's not technically a Fluffle card. But this card, this Frightfur Patchwork, can now search Edge Imp Chain. The reason Edge Imp Chain is so good is that when it's sent to the graveyard by a whole bunch of means, you can discard it with Toy Venner, you can use it for fusion summons, all sorts of things like that. It gets to search a Frightfur card from your deck to your hand, and that means you can search some really cool cards like Frightfur Factory or Frightfur Fusion, but also, and the reason that this card is an extender and not only a starter card for getting your plays going, is that you can actually search Frightfur Patchwork with Edge Imp Chain, which means if you already are in the middle of your combos and you don't open Patchwork, you can search Patchwork with the chain that you might have drawn and then continue extending your plays. Now in that case, you probably wouldn't search Chain with this card, you would search Saber, but I think it's just really cool that a card like this, very similar to something like Pre-Preparation of Rites, can be used as your first play, but also a play way down the line throughout your combos. Now, speaking of combos, I do want to sort of switch angles here and show you the main combo that was used with this card before Link Summoning, as well as the combo this card is now being used for. It certainly has changed a little bit, but it still is a 2-card OTK, albeit there is a little bit downside there that we'll get to when we actually show the combo. So if you were lucky enough to be playing with Frightfur Patchwork before Link Summoning, here's what the 2-card combo looked like. All you had to have was any Fluffle monster, it doesn't matter which one it is, and 1 copy of Patchwork. This is actually a combo that does over 8,000 damage, and this was the original OTK. This is why everyone wanted this card in the TCG, and I just wanted to show you guys what this one did before we look at the current combo, so you can kind of see why it is a little frustrating that we didn't get this before Link Summoning. So first off, you just activate the Patchwork, and this is pretty much going to be the same for every single iteration of the Patchwork combo. You're going to be adding Polymerization and Edge Imp Chain. Edge Imp Chain is extremely valuable in this deck, and then after that you're just going to activate Polymerization using any Fluffle monster and Edge Imp Chain to summon a Frightfur Kraken, which can attack twice for 22 plus 22, that's 44, quick maths, and then your chain triggers, which searches any Frightfur spell card, so you can add Frightfur Fusion to your hand, and then you can activate this card to banish the 2 monsters you literally just put in the graveyard to summon another Kraken to your field, and now you have 8,800 damage. That is the basic pre-Link combo with Frightfur Patchwork, and I'm going to show you here, there's still a 2-card combo to do an OTK, although it is a little bit more specific and also a little bit more open to disruption. Okay, so if you want to still do a 2-card OTK with Frightfur Patchwork, it requires you to open the Patchwork, and not just any Fluffle monster, but Fluffle Dog specifically. You also could do this combo with just any 2 Fluffle monsters, but if you really want just a 2-card OTK, it has to be Fluffle Dog. So here's what you're going to do. First, you're going to normal summon the dog, and this will add pretty much any Fluffle monster that you want. I'm just going to add wings for the sake of brevity, and then also you're going to activate Frightfur Patchwork there, and once again, grab a chain and a polymerization. So you can kind of see we have a similar setup to that last combo, but this one extra monster matters a lot. So what we're going to do here is activate polymerization using these 2 monsters to make Frightfur Kraken once again, although this time now it's up here because there's Link Summoning, and then your chain is going to trigger, and instead of adding the Frightfur Fusion like you used to be able to do, you have to add Frightfur Factory. Now this card is that has a couple effects, but the main effect that we're focusing on is by activating it and banishing the polymerization in your graveyard. This card acts as a polymerization, which means you can then use these 2 monsters to make Frightfur Sabretooth in the Link Zone, and then this triggers to special summon the Kraken from your graveyard. Now, with the Sabretooth on the board, all Frightfur monsters get 400 attack, so now this guy's up to 26, and this one's up to 28. You once again can still attack twice, so that's exactly 8,000 damage. So there are sort of these still combos that exist with this card. However, you have to open a specific Fluffle, and also if your opponent had like an MST or a Twin Twisters, they could kill the Frightfur Factory before you had a chance to do this combo. I should mention, if you somehow do a longer combo before this to get a Link monster with 2 downward pointing arrows, usually via a card like Brilliant Fusion sort of comboing off, then you could do the original combo of 2 Kraken. But if you don't have a Link monster that you can go into before this, you pretty much are stuck doing this. So as you can see, Frightfur Patchwork is not only a valuable piece of consistency for a fan favorite strategy, but it's also a pretty important combo piece for many of your turn 2 OTKs that a Fluffle/Frightfur deck will usually want to perform. And I think that one of the main reasons people are so excited about Frightfur Patchwork finally making it to the TCG is that we've spent 2 years talking about what if Fluffles actually got Frightfur Patchwork? How good would they be? And now we can finally know the answer. And I'm afraid to say, I don't think the deck is going to be super powerful. However, I am interested in taking it to a regional just for fun. I don't know if the best variant is Pure or with Invoked or Shaddolls, but whatever the case may be, I just want to play Fluffles with Frightfur Patchwork at an event for real. Even if I don't do that good, at least I'll have a lot of fun playing a deck I really enjoy playing, finally at full power. A little bit less than full power. Full power would have been Frightfur Patchwork before Link Summoning, but it's almost at full power, and it is at full power as far as powerful as it's ever been in the TCG, which gets me really excited. So hopefully you guys learned something in this video, sort of the history of why Frightfur Patchwork matters and why it's so good for Fluffles in general. Let me know what you guys think about this card, and if you think Fluffles will make an impact. I will see you later. Thank you so much for watching. Goodbye.